The behaviors that made you successful as a founder will destroy your team's respect at scale. After training thousands of sales reps, I've seen this pattern kill more growth than anything else. Your team follows your orders? That's compliance, not respect. And there's a massive difference. Respect makes teams perform when you're not in the room. Compliance dies the moment you leave. Without real respect, you'll stay trapped in operations while your competitors scale past you. So in this video, I'm going to break down 5 ways founders accidentally kill their team's respect and the exact shifts that rebuild it at scale. Point 1. You think respect comes from being right all the time. Most founders believe respect comes from being the smartest person in the room. Early on, that's true. You are the expert. You know the customer better than anyone. You've tried everything. You've earned the right to have strong opinions. And in the early stage, that works. But at scale, it quietly turns into know-it-all syndrome. You correct every idea. You finish people's sentences. You explain why something won't work before they finish pitching it. And here's what happens next. Your team stops thinking. Not because they're lazy, but because they've learned that thinking doesn't matter. When teams stop thinking, they stop caring about outcomes. They become order takers instead of owners. I worked with a founder who corrected every idea in leadership meetings. Not aggressively, not rudely, just constantly. Within 6 months, his leadership team stopped bringing ideas entirely. They waited for instructions, growth stalled, and he couldn't figure out why everyone felt checked out. The problem wasn't intelligence, it was psychological shutdown. Here's the shift. Respect doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from asking better questions. When you ask, how would you solve this? What are we missing? What would you do if this was your call? You signal something powerful. You're signaling, I trust you to think. That's where respect actually starts. Once your team stops thinking for themselves, another pattern kicks in. They stop solving problems as well. Point 2, you solve every problem instead of teaching problem solving. Big deal. In the early days, you fix everything because it's faster. A deal is stuck, you jump on a call. A process breaks, you patch it yourself. Someone's confused, you just tell them what to do. It works at first. But at scale, this creates something dangerous. Your team learns to bring you problems instead of solutions. They don't come to you with, here's what I think we should do. They come to you with, what do you want me to do? That's learned helplessness. Not because they're incapable, but because you trained them that you're the only one allowed to think critically. A founder friend of mine stayed on sales calls for 3 years longer than they wanted to. Not because he loved selling, but because every time he tried to step back, deals slowed down. Why? Because no one else had learned how he thought, only what decisions he made. So the business stalled, and the rest of the company never scaled. Here's the part founders don't expect. Your team starts to see you as the only one capable of real work, but at the same time, they resent being treated like they can't handle anything important. The shift is simple, but uncomfortable. Stop giving answers. Start teaching your thinking processes. Instead of, do this, say, here's how I would like to evaluate this. What do you think? That's how you build independent leaders instead of dependent employees. Here's the brutal truth. Your team needs you to approve every decision. That's not respect. That's learned helplessness, and it's killing your ability to scale. I've helped hundreds of founders fix this exact problem. You want to walk through what's keeping your team dependent on you? There's a link below. Grab some time with me. Even when teams are trying to think for themselves, founders often kill momentum in another way, without even realizing it. And that brings us to point 3. You change direction without explaining the reason why. Founders see the big picture. You notice patterns early. You pivot fast. You make instinctive calls that save the business. Early on, that's a superpower. At scale, it becomes chaos because while you see the strategy, your team only sees their work getting thrown away. They spent weeks building something. You walk in and say, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. No explanation, just a new direction. Over time, they start thinking, why even try? Or worse, he doesn't value our effort. And here's the dangerous assumption teams make. When there's no context, but I don't understand the why, maybe he doesn't either. Teams don't need certainty. They need context. The shift here is critical. When you move fast, explain your reasoning, even briefly. You don't need a presentation. You don't need consensus. You just need to say, here's what changed. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's why this matters now. That's how you keep people bought in instead of burned out. Now, let's talk about one of the fastest ways to destroy trust. And most founders don't even notice they're doing it. Point 4, you take credit for wins, but blame the team for losses. Early stage, every win is because of you. Every loss is because of you. But at scale, wins are team efforts, and many founders never update their behavior. They say things like, I closed that deal. I saved that account. I fixed that problem. But when something goes wrong, it was an execution issue. The team dropped the ball. They didn't Follow the process. Your team notices. They notice when success has your name on it and failure has theirs. One of the founders I've worked with publicly celebrated his personal wins but blamed execution issues for missed targets. Over time, his team stopped taking risks. Why? Because psychologically, safety disappeared. If success isn't shared and failure is people play defense, the shift, take blame publicly, give credit publicly. You can dissect problems privately, but in front of the team, you own the losses, you own the wins. That's leadership respect. And finally, the most dangerous mistake of all, because it feels like respect, you mistake fear for respect. A lot of founders think their team respects them because no one pushes back. Meetings are quiet. Decisions go unchallenged. Everyone nods. That's not respect. That's self-protection. Silence usually means people are managing your reactions, not the business. When teams are afraid to disagree, you lose access to their best thinking. One of the founders that I associate with thought he had incredible alignment in his business. Then exit interviews told the real story. Everyone was scared to speak up. Fear-based compliance looks like respect, but it kills innovation, kills ownership, and destroys growth. Real respect sounds different. It sounds like, I disagree, and here's why. I think this might break. We're missing something. The shift? Reward disagreement. Thank people for bad news. Make it safe to challenge you. That's how real respect shows up. So let's recap the 5 ways founders kill respect without even knowing it. Trying to be right instead of curious. Solving problems instead of teaching problem solving. Changing direction without context. Taking credits for wins and blaming losses. Mistaking fear for respect. Here's the core belief shift. Compliance keeps people in line. Respect makes them perform when you're gone. If your business only works when you're in the room, you haven't built a team. You've built a dependency. And the behaviors that made you successful early, if you don't evolve them, they'll keep your business small. Real scale starts when your team respects you enough to think without you. Most founders I work with are stuck closing every important deal themselves. Their sales team exists, but somehow the big deals still require the founder's magic touch. If that's you, it's not a people problem, it's a sales system problem. I help founders audit their sales process, fix the bottlenecks, and build teams that scale the business without them in the trenches. If you're tired of being the only one who can hit your sales targets, book a strategy call with me. Links below. If you want to see the exact system I use to build a $100 million sales team, watch the next video where I break down the entire system step by step.